Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Oh, can you believe that it's like April, what is it, April 14th? Like for reals. For reals, for reals, for reals. Serena is here. You guys are on live. Always say hello. If you watch the replay, say hello. Tell us where you are tuning in from. So I'm excited for this class. I'm excited for every class because as I sit and write my notes and reflect, I always remember this is where I was. And I'm like, oh, this is where so many people are. And I want to help not perpetuate those kinds of things. Christy's here too. Hey, Christy. So today we're talking about overwhelm. And if you don't know, I'm Robin Whitworth, the CEO of the Elevated Mother Experience and the facilitator of this group. Bringing Christian moms together to learn how to elevate our mindsets so that we elevate our lives. Really, that's what it is. I'm teaching you how to up level. I'm teaching you how to have that awesome life that we see. And it seems like in Christian culture that it's like only a few people that really get to have a lot of choices in their life, whether that's monetarily, physically, mentally, spiritually, whatever. And I'm here to share the message that those are patterns that we choose. And generationally, those are patterns people continue to choose. And I can teach you how to break generational patterns and why they even exist, why we would choose something like that. And today we're talking about overwhelm. And if you watched or read my post, not watched, I didn't do a video. If you read my post about overwhelm, and when I first heard, well, overwhelm's just a choice, I was like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? Is this really like a thing? How can overwhelm just be a choice? And as I got thinking about the word, you guys know me and my word nerdiness. I realized, I'm like, you know what? Overwhelm is actually an adjective. It's not like an actual thing, right? So I thought, okay, I guess I can start thinking about how this could be a choice. It's a choice of what I'm picking. But even as some people, when I've brought up stuff, yeah, Carla, it is pretty interesting. As I brought up stuff online in different posts about, how we choose our emotions and how we choose these things, a lot of people are like, well, we don't choose our circumstances all the time. We don't choose these things. Now, I am here to gently share 3 different ways to understand overwhelm and why it is a choice. So let's dive in. Now, I want you to know that I am human. I am not a superhero or someone that doesn't have human DNA. And I identified with overwhelm through much of my life until literally in the last, little chunk of my life. And so my childhood, my teenage years, I heard that word, overwhelmed, overwhelmed, overwhelmed. Now, my mother had 10 children. I have no doubt in my mind that I heard that word time and time again. I probably heard it throughout my family. This was a word that we chose to describe a lot of things. Now, at the time, I just thought overwhelm is something you experience. Overwhelm is part of motherhood. Overwhelm is just life. This just happens to people. And when I was married and when I had lots of, the little ones and babies up in the night and all of those things, I would wake up, be so tired. You really didn't sleep through the night. You guys know this feeling. If you're like, I have felt overwhelmed and I've chosen it, let us know. But I would choose that word. It was like, I'm overwhelmed. I felt, and this is interesting, as I was preparing for this class, I looked up the word overwhelm. Like, what's the definition? It was like buried, overcome, inundated, too much of a thing. And I'm like, yep. Like, of course, if I'd been up all night and then I just expect myself to do all the things without the regular energy that I have. So I'm already functioning at 20%, but I'm trying to do 100% of my stuff. Yes, overwhelm is very likely going to happen. Arguments with your spouse where emotions can inundate you. More month than money. Waiting for paychecks to be able to pay the week's bills from 2 weeks ago or a month ago. Too much month, not enough money. We're inundated with too many bills. A child of yours that's struggling with bullying. Again, inundation of feelings, emotions, struggles. Possibly, if you were bullied as a child, triggered, mirrored experiences. We can easily choose this word. It's just whether or not we're choosing to recognize that we have kind of brought this upon ourselves in many, many ways. And I'm going to break that down for you. I'm going to break that down. Okay. But remember that words matter. What you say to yourself, your mind will believe. Be careful, my friends, in your choice of your words. If you consistently choose overwhelm, what does your mind think of when you think of overwhelm? I am overwhelmed. This is overwhelming. You've likely already defined emotions, experiences, like different stuff associated with this word. This isn't even in my three conscious choices to avoid too much of a thing is what I want to teach you today. But words matter. And I did a video a month or so ago now where I was talking about the words forgiveness, the words repentance, and really breaking down what that really meant in the context of Jesus Christ's time and how we have seriously twisted some of the words in our moral language today as Christians. And it's important that we don't do that because it twists the gospel. Words matter. So when you say, oh, I'm so overwhelmed, is that true? Are you truly inundated to the point where you are overwhelmed? One of the examples in the definition I got from the Webster's dictionary or whatever is like, a city was overwhelmed by the breaking dam. They were buried. Buried was a word. Hopeless was a word that came up under these words. So you go, when I'm using this word overwhelm, wow, like this is serious business. I'm talking about being buried. I'm talking about being hopeless. Those are serious words to be identifying with. When you're choosing the word overwhelmed to describe what you're going through, is it true? Is it really true for you? Like, oh, this situation is so overwhelming. So in sharing this with you, become aware. Sometimes we use words that society has said are appropriate for these certain situations, and yet it's creating an experience. It's creating something that may actually be quite fictional. And we all play into this drama. We love this emotion that we get, feeling of belonging, feeling like I can get help for my situation if I truly believe I'm overwhelmed. Carla says, so thinking the word also plays into our reality. Then how do you change the whole thought process? That's where I have difficulty still. Great reflection, great clarity there too. Beautiful clarity. So I'm going to go through a couple of steps to help you break apart why someone might choose that word. And this is why this is so important. This is why I wanted to teach a class on this. Because when I'm talking to people, I talk to a lot of people. I offer, free calls, and we talk about the program. And like, I have like these top 10 words that I hear. Overwhelm is one of them. It's just, I'm overwhelmed by my children. I'm overwhelmed by my job. I'm overwhelmed with everything I have to do. I feel so overwhelmed. This is overwhelming. And it's like, let's talk about this word. Let's talk about this experience that you're having, because it's a choice. So for many years, overwhelm was my choice of word as well. Okay. So who's ready? Like, I have 3 conscious choices, 3 things that you can do to avoid this being buried, too much of a thing, like hopelessness. Who's ready to hear them? Put a little 1 in the chat, or a yes, or I'm here for it. Like, let's hear who's ready. In the comments, I guess. It's a chat if you're all on Facebook. I mean, oh my gosh, if you're all on Zoom with me, it's the chat. If you're not, you've got the comments. Christy says me. Stephanie's here. She says yes. So, number 1, if you're taking notes, I hope you take notes. Guys, this is like such good stuff that I've like had to experience years and read all these books and you like get it streamlined. So take notes. This is going to be so good. So, number 1, boundaries. And if you're unfamiliar with what boundaries are, what they look like, what it sounds like to have boundaries, I love the book. I'm actually going to put this in the comments. Set Boundaries, Find Peace by Nedra. Wow. Oh my gosh. Learn about boundaries. Boundaries is when you say, I need help, because you have recognized you are outside of your own bounds. Boundaries keep us safe, right? That's why we have stop signs. This is why we have seatbelts. This is why we have law and order. This is why children who have boundaries, I'm talking healthy boundaries. Children, it's proven, you can look it up. I wish I had the book that had this study, but children that have boundaries are always more confident, more secure in who they are. They feel safer, like in themselves and in their homes and their experience. They have more confidence when they have clear boundaries in their home. So we go to bed at 8:30. We have dinner as a family at 6 o'clock. We don't allow these types of swear words in our home. It changes the environment. We, in our home, we have these boundaries. And they are kept and they are enforced. And children that have boundaries feel more safe, secure, and confident. Children that are just left to run wild, they actually have more fear, insecurity. They don't know if they belong or if they're loved. Isn't this interesting? Think about the boundaries you've set for yourself, if you have any, because it's been my experience that Christian mothers who experience overwhelm a lot do not have clear personal boundaries. Why is this important? Boundaries, like when we have When we don't have boundaries in place for ourselves, overwhelm can totally become consistent, and it attributes to an array of emotional and physical ailments that over time can become diseases and loss of quality of life. If you're allowing yourself to just be a doormat, you do all the things, you say yes to all the things, you do all the things, all the things, all the things, all the things, all the time, of course you will become buried in things. You will become buried. Do you have boundaries against when the laundry's done and who does it? Or you just do it all? Do you have boundaries for yourself on when you'll take a cell phone call? Or do you take your phone to bed on with the consistent anxiety that somebody might need you at 2 a.m. in the morning? Now, I get that, if your neighbor is going to go into labor in the next 36 hours and she's asked you to take her kids, you might do that, right? But on a whole, how about we leave the cell phone out as a boundary for our health? Like, do you have boundaries in place that say, I am a human being first, before marriage, before children, and I have needs that must be met? This isn't selfishness, this is health. Like, okay, boundaries is your first one. This is the top thing to avoid being overwhelmed, getting too much allowed on your plate or being expected of you or whatever. Okay. Thoughts, questions on that before we move to number 2? I know I've got some students from the Elevated Mother Experience on here that they've understood what boundaries are. Sometimes for the first time. They weren't modeled boundaries by their mother or their dad or anybody. And so they don't know what this looks like. They don't know how this shows up. But the number one reason people experience consistent overwhelm is the lack of boundaries for themselves. Number 2. I love your comment, Carla. I'm glad you're thinking. Because here's the thing. Out there in the world are common ways of thinking that create the common ways we live. Things that are not just appropriate, but accepted. And when there's so much overwhelm and hopelessness running around, it's time to question common ways of thinking. Let's become better thinkers. I love that. You're like, this is making me think. Yes, absolutely. Think about this. Any questions that I pose, question them to your family at dinner time, like, or your spouse or someone, like, what do you think about this? Like, really start to question common ways of thinking. Okay, number 2, to avoid this too much of a thing. When we're in it and we have stayed up all night with the kids and our physical capacity has been depleted, when we've argued with our spouse and our physical capacity, we've been triggered, we're feeling all sorts of things, right? Feelings is number 2, learning to process and identify the feeling. Because there's the fact. We have emotions in our physical self. It's part of our safety. Our brain provokes ideas and thoughts, and that we have these feelings, we have these emotional experiences. When our emotions are high and we're processing, oh, I'm sad, I'm alone, I'm scared, I'm sad, I'm alone, like we're feeling this thing that creates a physical sensation of emotion, the logical thinking brain does not function. They cannot function at the same time. That's why you can experience this, right? When you're emotionally high, you make rational decisions, and then when you've calmed down, you're like, we often regret something we did in a highly emotional moment, thinking, how could I have done that? Maybe you spanked your child when you Isn't that interesting? Don't hit your sister. And then we hit them. Like, it's so dumb when we think about it. It's so ridiculous, the things we do in high emotional states. That makes no sense to try to teach your child to not hit by hitting them. But so many parents get caught up in this emotional moment, wanting to make some type of impact on their child and justice, so they hit them. Children, like, this is not a thing. It only is done in a highly emotional state because your logical brain cannot turn on in the same moment. This is not only good for you to know about yourself, but for everyone else. Your husband may say or do things in a highly emotional moment. Your kid may say or do things in a highly emotional moment that make no sense. They're ridiculous. They might be rude. It might be. We have to know that the logical brain goes down when emotions are high. So many women who are overwhelmed, feeling buried, feeling hopeless, they're having this highly emotional experience. They're feeling a lot of things. And if they never allow themselves to come down, they can live over here in this fight. You learn about flight or fight. Like, this is the state you feel. You're just constantly in these emotions, never stopping to identify, what is this? This is processing your feelings. Like, feelings that we don't recognize, name, and process actually stay. And we'll have this whole experience, maybe a triggering experience. Maybe it's a trigger of trauma or a trigger from childhood, or just a physical sensation. We were hit, we were cut, something happened where we were, and if we don't process it, it had created an energetic experience within the body. And if you don't think about it, allow it to move through, it actually stays. It actually stays stuck. And oftentimes people just suppress it. They push it down. I'll deal with that later. I don't know what that was. It just was something. They push it down, they suppress. Well, my friends, there's only so much room that the body can handle before you will experience burnout, depression, high anxiety. Your body won't heal. It affects your metabolic abilities. You'll have stomach aches, constipation, headaches, sleeplessness, chronic stress. All from suppressing these experiences, not working through them and not letting them go. So processing the feelings is number 2. And there's a lot to learn there if you don't do that regularly and know how to do that. But it is important. It is so important. Learning to just feel the thing. Say, I'm feeling this. I got to sit and feel this and identify this. It's a skill. It's a skill I didn't have until about 5 years ago. Like, I knew about it, but I didn't actually know how it was for me to process feelings until about 5 years ago. But it has been the best, like the best to learn. So that's number 2. Stuck energy stays in the body. If you've ever had like a backache, a piece of your neck that gets sore every time you're stressed, maybe you go to the chiropractor over and over and over for the same issue. You think, well, I guess I need surgery. It's been so interesting to me, and I've had my own experience with this, with my own aches and pains, where once I process something, a deep wound, a trigger, and I move through, all of a sudden, the ache goes away. And I didn't need a chiropractor appointment. I'm not saying you should never go to the chiropractor. I think there's times for that when we really you're jumping on the tramp, you slipped on the ice, and we really can get really jarred up. And alignment's important. So I'm just saying, though, that a lot of times suppressed emotions and feelings manifest as a metabolic issue. Like, I'm not healing, I'm not okay, my hormones are depressed, like start having these problems. This is a real thing. All right. Number 3. Number 3 is how you actually execute your actual strategy for life. Okay. Do you have a daily plan that serves you? Or is it, I just wake up and put out fires all day and have an endless to-do list? That's called reactionary living. You're always putting out fires, and you can become addicted to that kind of lifestyle where you actually create chaos because you feel like you need it. And this is, boundaries is the number one. Processing feelings is a skill you must have, but this one is usually like the foundation that perpetuates this. Okay, like so far. There's a lot of context. I want to share some different pieces. So if you're taking notes, you maybe want to just know there's going to be some different pieces here. But your daily strategy for living is whether or not your life is doable for you based on what you know about yourself, right? Now, I want to share something that's been really interesting to me. Over the last 3 years, I have been engaged with, I hired a coaching firm that helped me to do a lot of different things in learning my business and the processes that I was doing. And they were in Australia. And so many times in these circles, these masterminds I was part of, these business, different things that I was doing, everybody would comment like, oh, I love your American accent. Oh, you're so American. That is such an American idea. What's interesting is because of our country's histories, America and Australia actually parallel each other in many ways on how we think, how we have grown as a country. It's very interesting. But I've got into more international groups and I was learning about, marketing and how you share different things. And I came to the realization, and I have since noticed it now in books and different stuff, that Americans believe we should do it all. When our first people came over from Europe, and through the years, there was this idea in Europe, people did not do it all. They had servants, governesses, and to this very day, childcare in Europe and down in through Spain and the top part of Africa and all through, like, women do not do it all. They have live-in nannies. That's like totally normal. Childcare is paid for in most of the countries. Women have a year of maternity leave for sure. They don't lose their jobs because they're pregnant or have, this is not a thing in many other countries, that women have to have the baby, care for the baby, care for all the other kids, and run everybody around and do all the things. This is very much an American tradition. That they came over and were like, we don't do servants here. Women are so cool and so strong. We can do it all. We can cook, do the garden, raise the kids, support the husband, clean the house, and make clothes, and milk the cows. In the world? What in the world? And yet for generations, who's filling me on this? Is this your generational history? Anybody? That mom is so cool. The woman is so cool. She does all this stuff. And boy, isn't that man so admired because he works all day to support these people. Interesting, right? We're so inundated, I'm using this word, in the Americas. This has been our tradition for so long that we're like in it, right? It's like blinders. Like we don't even realize there's a whole different world out there unless you go and travel and live in these different places. Or like me, you're inundated. I've been surrounded by these people sharing these different ideas that my brain was like, what? This is not even a thing. Okay. You know what I mean? So it's so interesting because the Americans we've been stuck in, you can do it all. And while there are positivities to that, right? We have so many possibilities. In America, there's so much opportunities because of this idea that men and women are equal and we can do all these things. We've created a place where you can do it all if you choose to. We have products and services and all these different things so that you can do it all. And we actually have a lot of pride in how independent we are. And again, these are good things for the most part. But when you look at like your daughter, those of you that have a daughter, and you think, wow, if I'm consistently overwhelmed with this life I'm choosing, I'm modeling this behavior. I'm modeling that I am proud of this. Does this give me worth? Does being ultra productive and doing all the things bring me my worth? My little girl over here, is she going to want to grow up and get married and do this too? Is she seeing this experience that I'm having and looking forward to it? My sons, are they seeing their dad being held on this pedestal of we do everything for dad? Mom stresses out to get a meal on the table at 6 p.m. Mom stresses out to get the house clean so dad's not stressed. We do all these things to uphold dad. What is going on at home? Does that mean I'm going to grow up and my wife will do all the things? You ask a young child about that and they will be like, I'm not sure. Because young children see a whole different world than we do, right? A lot of times they tell a truth that we have forgotten because we're trying to fit in to societal norms. Very interesting. I actually had a client that was sharing with me that her daughter was really struggling and she was yelling and screaming, and I think she was like 7, and she sat with her and was trying to help her realize her actions were making these people feel sad, and we have to be aware of that. And her daughter pushed against that so hard and was like, but this is what happened and I feel this way. And she was just like, kind of like, but you made these people feel this way. And she just kept fighting against that. And what's interesting is the very next day, this daughter was planning on going skiing with the dad and the older sibling. She's the youngest. And she said, now I know sometimes you get a little bit scared when you're going skiing, but just remember, and her daughter goes, I know, it's my choice how I feel. And she's like, it was so surprising that she just, went with that. And I was able to point out, and this was a big aha moment for my client. Of course, because that makes sense. She knows she's in charge of her own feelings. So the night before, when you were telling her that her actions were making people feel sad, that does not make sense to her. She would fight against that idea. We do not make people feel a certain way. We are in charge of our own feelings. We act how we need to act, and they're going to do whatever they're going to do. That is not our responsibility. Her daughter was able to bring that full circle, and when I pointed that out, she was like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Like, yeah, I'm sitting here telling her she should be responsible for all these people's feelings, and the next day I'm telling her she should only be responsible for hers. No wonder there was conflict. Young children especially will fight against things that are not right, that somehow in society we're saying these things. In fact, I'm going to stay on this soapbox for a little bit because I was just reading. My daughter is a licensed daycare provider and works at a daycare here in town. And she was sent home some training material for these young kids. And it was like, when we pull a child aside, let's make sure and tell them, you know, that their actions make people feel a certain way. And I was like, oh, honey. Oh, this is being taught in the daycare too? Whoa, no wonder I have clients full of women that are feeling responsible for everybody's crap because they were taught that. I don't recall in my life ever being said that, but I saw it. I saw people feeling bad when they did something that was amazing and someone felt bad, so then they felt bad. I'm like, what? We see this. So take note on that. If you haven't thought about, we're not responsible for other people's stuff. But going back to Americans being so proud about what we do, and does that affect my worth to other people? Okay. When we say, I can do it all, I can do it all, I can do it all, you can do it, I can do it, this type of thing. Like I said, there are some positives to that. But mentally, if you think of a track, you know, a running track, and there's a lane for every person, every human being comes down here in their own lane. They're going to grow up and have their own experience, and it's their lane. But when we mentally are like, we're going to do it all, we think we can run across everybody's lane and be part of everybody's thing. We're going to affect them here. We're going to affect them here. We're going to do this. We're in every lane with every task, with every hat. And we feel like we have to literally be prepared to do it all, or we're worth less. This is the uncomfortable. This is the negative side of this type of mentality. So we talk about, what's your strategy going through life every day? Like, do you just put out fires and run a to-do list? Or is there actually, this is what I'm doing. I have a full, clear intent that this is what this is. And if you wake up and the baby's been sick, and so you can easily go, my intent today, I need to actually care for myself. So these things are going to change. And we actually have a conscious experience. But if you don't have that down and you're just living the dream over here in Reactionville, doing it all because you're an American, and then you add being a Christian on top of that, and we're taught about serving and humility and how you do all these things to help other people, and we mourn with people that mourn and all these things. Now, again, those are good attributes. But ultimately, even Jesus Christ had boundaries. When someone wanted to come in, he's like, not today. I'm going to pray for a month over here for 40 days. What? You know what I mean? Really look at the life of Jesus Christ. He rested. He had boundaries. He went where he needed to go, when he needed to go there. Okay. Why is this important? This idea of really looking at your daily strategy of living. Is your daily strategy of living, is it serving you? Why is this important to do this? Every time, and I think Stephanie's on this call, and she shared this quote from the book, The Worthy Mind, I think is what it was called. Stephanie, you can correct me if I'm wrong. But she shared that there's a quote in this book, but the idea that I was going to share is the same, but I'm going to say it this way. So Stephanie, you may recognize this from our class yesterday because she's a student in the program. But every time you overextend yourself, okay, you're taking on too much, you're saying yes to everything and just being like, I can do it, on your way to burnout and depression and anxiety, okay? Every time you overextend yourself emotionally, financially, physically, you've gone too far, right? It's too much. Because you think productivity and all these things have to do with your worth. Thank you, Stephanie, for putting that in the chat. Every time then that you overextend yourself and you cannot do it all, you drop the ball, you have to cancel on your friend, you do these things, there's more month than money, you overextend yourself physically, financially, or emotionally, you're sending your brain the message of worthlessness. You're perpetuating this idea of worthlessness. Put that together. If you struggle with feeling like you deserve an amazing life, like you want your kids to be proud of you, you want to be proud of yourself, feel like you have purpose and you're contributing to the world the way that you want, this is what most Christians want. They want to contribute. They want to be able. We want to have joy. We want to have the peace that Christ promised. But if you are very likely too often choosing too much to do, too much to take on, with the belief that this is making you more valuable, and then you can't do it all, your consciousness says you failed. You are telling yourself a consistent story that you are worth less. It's interesting. So you choose your boundaries. You choose to learn how to process feelings, learning to process them healthfully. You choose what you're saying yes to. You choose how your day is going. These are all choices you can consciously make. And if you keep your commitments to yourself when you plan out your day, and this is how this is going to go, and whether or not you associate or identify with this idea that if I do it all, I am worth more. So if I can't do it all, I am worthless. Worthiness issues come into play so much with this idea of overwhelm and whether or not we can do all the things. So when you are overwhelmed, you have too much of a thing, you're buried. It leads to a feeling of hopelessness, of worthlessness. It's a series of choices that led you here. They may have been unconscious. And this is why in the Elevated Mother experience, it's so important that we start mapping where your brain is at. What things you think are so valuable. We do that in the first couple of weeks. So you can see what choices am I continuing to make here that led me here, because I don't want to go here anymore. But we have to kind of go backwards and be like, what led me here? And that takes some time. What did I choose? And why did I choose this adjective, this overwhelm word to describe? Okay. Realize that is a choice that you're making. You can simply change your language to, I have a lot on my plate, I'm going to need to rest, versus I'm so overwhelmed, it feels hopeless. It is your choice if you find yourself there. When I have felt overwhelmed, so these are some journal prompts to help you if you want to write them down, and I can copy them into the chat. So I think these are really useful into the comment. Kind of long, but you'll survive. In the last few years, I have chosen to use that word to describe my experience of overwhelm about 3 or 4 times. And I've had the opportunity now to consciously reflect and say, what happened here? Like, what choices did I make to find myself here? Why did I choose that adjective to describe how I was feeling? And most importantly, is it true? Is this too much? Am I buried? Is this truthfully how I feel about this? Where can I improve my boundaries then in this, this context? Maybe it's something with in-laws, maybe it's something with the schools, maybe it's something with my work, maybe it's, how can I improve my boundaries then so that this is not happening? Where did I let my emotional brain lead me instead of my reasonable self? And why? Why would I choose that? Like, what happened there? Who or what was it that had me doubting my best self and feeling like I needed to take on more or do all these things? Was it a specific something I read or heard, or someone said something to me and I was triggered in my worth? What feeling was I searching for when I signed up for, I'm going to be the PTO president of 2 different schools, and I'm going to be a leader in my church? Why don't we just add preschool teacher on top of that? Like, when we sign up for all these things, usually we're searching for a feeling. So I like to say, ask myself, what feeling was I searching for when I signed up for all this stuff? Can I just choose to feel it now? Instead of thinking I needed to do all this stuff to obtain that feeling of maybe value, worthiness, confidence, contribution, like what belonging? What was I looking for when I signed all this up? What did I think that was going to bring to me? And can I just choose to feel that now? And I don't have to do all this stuff. That's a powerful question. And it's a powerful skill. And why did I need that feeling? Why did I feel like I needed that to the point where I would overextend? This goes into overextending financially. Like, why did I feel like that was so important that I would do that? What did I think I was going to get? And you come home with a purchase that you're like, did I even need that? It was an impulse buy. What was going on there? Is there somewhere I can do better to care for myself so that I don't feel these needs, right? The word need indicates that we lack something. So it's like, do I need to do some better self-care? Like, I feel like I have to need these things to prove my worthiness or feel valuable. Where did I veer off my strategy? Like, why did I not stick with my plan that I set forth? I mistrusted the plan. Why? What happened there? These are really good questions to ask yourself. So I'm at the end of my notes here. Overwhelm then is a conscious choice of words, feelings, of being. So how do we know our boundaries? How do we process feelings? How do we create a daily schedule or some type of strategy that aligns? What are the steps to doing that? To being able to then say, yes, I can do this, or no, I won't be doing that with ease and confidence. That's inside the Elevated Mother experience. And there is a different way to live. There's a different way to be. But it is a process. It's not something I can teach on one, this is something you get to commit to and say, there's a different way of living. Maybe I should consider. I would love for you to at least consider that the way to stop living this way is out there. And you can do it safely. And it doesn't have to take so many years like it did for me. It can be very short with a short, focused, specific, proven process. So if you want to look into the Elevated Mother experience, we have enrollments open and we'll get on a call and we talk about what exactly that looks like before we even share, the enrollment process and all that stuff. If you would like to look into that, write intentional in the comments because we're moving from being reactive to intentional. I can be consciously intentional. And if you want to write intentional in the chat, we'll reach out and we'll schedule a call and we'll talk about that. So good stuff, guys. Carla says, thank you. You always give me a lot to think about. I'm glad. Go and think about it. But ultimately, I don't want you guys to always just come to this call to think about stuff. Like, I would really love for you to do the work so that you're coming here for the icing on the cake. Like, let's get into the program and do the work. That's where the exciting stuff happens. Stephanie knows this. Stephanie and Serena, who are students in the programs, whom I love so much and am so appreciative of them. So consider the new way. Consider that you don't have to do this all the time, that you can learn these skills. And I will see you guys on the next training.